Hey, we got 7 seconds till the video comes on. You can hear us. We're trying again. Here we go. Here we go. All right. I see myself. That means we're live. So welcome everybody. This is stream number 3 of a live show that we call Breakthroughs, which is get the breakthrough before something breaks you. And, third time around, we're trying this out. We feel like we have some things to say and think it can be very helpful. The way I look at this, or the reason why we're doing this, is because honestly, it's a prevention. We want to help people prevent getting to the breaking point, right? And when I say breaking point, Jake had 4 strokes, Jake, or 3? I can't remember. 3 or 4?
Just three.
Just three at the age of 30. Jake had 3 strokes at the age of 30. 3.5 years ago, I got diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And those medical situations were, in our opinion, really just preventable. And we want to make clear that when we talk about this stuff, it's not these medical things are not the content. They're not the content. They were purely the messenger, the wake-up call. And that's why we call it preventative, right? We want breakthroughs to be preventative, meaning we want someone to have a breakthrough before something breaks them, okay? So what we're going to do is we talk about things that can frustrate us, frustrate others, and really, unbeknownst to many of us, be a driver in those feelings that might lead to something we'll call it stress related, that can disrupt how life goes. So we're figuring this out. Let's be honest. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at notes because I can't remember what I'm supposed to say. We'll get better as we go. But I think we have a pretty good topic on hand today. And it's really simply like, why can't we make meaningful friendships after 30? And so why is this one of the things around the breakthrough, this idea of breakthroughs? Because look, human connection is everything. And finding meaningful friendships after 30, once life gets started, can be, it can be disruptive to how we think and how we feel, and then how we live our lives. So with that long ass introduction, which we'll get better in time, Jake, how's it going?
Oh man, it's going well. It's going pretty well. I have been at this computer for way too long the last couple of days because I've learned a new skill. I won't get too deep into that, but it's really exciting. However, my eyes start hurting. So, I prefer to be doing this at the computer than a lot of other things. But
yeah,
that's me in a nutshell in the last 30 seconds or so. How about you?
Yeah, dude.
Aya's back, right?
Oh yeah, the cat's back. Cat was gone for 5 days. You have to understand, this is where one of these weird things. I'm not a cat person. I don't like cats. I just don't. But this particular cat is my cat. And the reason is because this cat is so independent and I'm so independent that we're like one and the same. And it was really hard for me because after radiation, she would sit with me while I had dealt with all the pain. I would put my legs up on this desk and she would just sit there next to me for the entire day. Anyway.
No, but this is it though. That feeling right there, we always talk about cancer and stroke isn't the content. It's just the thing that happened to us that gives us the experience to feel like when we talk about it, it means something. Because without those things, and we were having these conversations, it wouldn't make any sense. It would be all conjecture. It would be like, we think this is what bad thing, we think this will happen if you don't pay attention to these things. And then we're like, as living proof, we didn't pay attention to these things, and then bad things happened. Yeah. And luckily we're both still here right now. And so that's we're trying to share this before, I don't know. We want to share it before anybody else has to go through it. So
I don't want to say it this way, but it's like a warning shot, Mm-hmm. It's just like a warning shot. There's just so much buildup to to what goes on in our heads. And from a neuroscience perspective, right, the way you think generates chemicals, and those chemicals will make you feel the way you think. And it just creates these cycles that could get, just like I said, destructive, right?
Yeah.
So anyway,
So
that being said,
that's a lot of general information, but the whole point of these live streams is we're going to pick one topic and then try to break down that one thing. So, yeah, Chad, do you want to take away what is the topic for today, I guess?
Yeah. So it really, I mean, we're talking about these meaningful friendships or relationships, whatever you want to call it, because like human connection literally is everything. And it's like, it's persistent throughout a lot of my conversations with friends and acquaintances about, yeah, just even our family, like, you know, talking about how do I find somebody that, you know, we can really connect with and trust and build these meaningful relationships with people. And so it's like, we think about this a lot, but how do you do it? It's like, why does it happen and how do you do it? And we think we know one way for sure. We know one way for sure. And it's only because of Supply Run that we know this. I mean, the science shows it, but Supply Run proved it when we did it.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. I'm going to give you the research on it. I got to look at my notes for this one, but research shows that a drop in both number and novelty of friendships after the late 20s happens. And it's because of life. I mean, you have work, then you have a partner, and you have kids, you have aging parents, and then there's less unstructured time, right? Which is typically the number one predictor of new friendships. When you have, and you're in college and you have unstructured time, you just hang out. You literally just hang out. And it's like the constant time together creates that. But when you are now 30 and your life is full motion, right? You don't have this free time just to hang out. I mean, I don't have kids, so I have one less thing to worry about, but like, I'm not just hanging out. I don't have kids and I'm still not just hanging out. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
I think a lot about, I have this visual in my head. One day we'll be able to like map these out somehow, but one thing at a time. But like when you're growing up, you don't have all these responsibilities, all these layers, right? Like you are figuring things out on the fly, like every single day. You go to school and everything is still learning and novelty. Like there's no, it's like constant newness, and it's constant newness with the same people, and oftentimes unstructured time, both structured and unstructured time. And then after, let's say, early 20s, or if you went to college, you know, like after that, everybody's in this, like, I don't know, vortex. They're spending time with each other, figuring life out. And then once you get a job, let's say, or you get into a long-term relationship, or you get married, or whatever it might be, it's very specific pathways from there on out. Like you go this way, other people go this way, other people go this way, other people go and now you're trying to make friends, like hopping pathways. It's almost like you're forcing it. Whereas when you're a kid, you just didn't have to force it because of so much unstructured time. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
well, I mean, look, I mean, there's a study by this guy, Jeffrey Hall in the University of Kansas, has the hours down to figure out like what this looks like, right?
Okay.
It takes 50 hours to move from acquaintance to a casual friend. So you need 50 hours of time. Do you have 50 hours of time?
I mean, we got 50 hours actually doesn't sound like a lot until you actually say, is that 1 hour per month?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
Months, you know?
Right. Right. Well, how about this? Then it's about 90 hours to become friends.
Okay.
Right? 90 hours.
90 months.
Yeah. And then 200 hours for close friendships. Okay? 200 hours for close friendships. I mean, people are like just trying to feed their kids, you know, trying to get the dog taken care. I don't even know. So like, how are you supposed to actually build these meaningful relationships? 200 hours for close friendships, right? And that's the only place you're going to get that typically, I guess, is in the office. So you better hope to God that you love your office and your work.
I think about, if I were to think about, I have anecdotes that kind of but validate that exact idea. But when I think about spending, so actually, I guess I'll bring this anecdote up now, but it's after strokes, not all that related, but I remember being at the hospital in a follow-up appointment, and I had a friend in a group chat from old friends, like friends from high school. And he mentioned this phrase that I will never forget because I was walking around this hospital campus. And he was like, it's weird. Does anybody else in this group, have you like been able to make friends as good as the friends in this group? Because I can never do it. And that was the first time where it kind of struck me that like, yeah, it's really hard to make meaningful friendships after a certain age. And I started thinking about all the reasons. And I remember writing back without any validation. It was just my own reading of neuroscience books and my own personal experience. And I was like, honestly, the only way I've ever made a meaningful friendship after 30 was because of a very intense novel moment, or I spent so much time with people like at work. So to go back to the work comment, I think most people, if they make friends after 30, it's usually because it's a work friend. And it's because, like school, you spend, let's say, 8 hours a day. That meets the 50-hour threshold a lot faster. That's like, 2 weeks as a casual acquaintance or whatever. And the thing with that, though, is sometimes I fear if it's just time related, then there's no novelty or intensity. There's no real bond except for time. So like I call it proximity friendships or convenience, right? Like we're always talking to each other, so we know enough about each other, but like, do we have a shared experience that like really solidifies a bond, or is it just because we vent about work every day or, whatever it might be? So anyway, we'll get to the idea of I guess our solution, but I don't know. Do you have any anecdotes like that, or?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's two ways to get these friendships. It's like time on the task over time, right? Which is like, think about college. I saw my friends every single day, right? That's time on the task. And then there's the intensity of the moment. So then you take somebody who you see every day and you have an intense experience with them, and all of a sudden it becomes that much deeper, right? But this time thing is nearly impossible, right? From the same study, right? From the same study that I just mentioned from the guy from Kansas. After 30, people dramatically underestimate how much contact is required and then overestimate how fast the chemistry should work. Okay. And then most adults, they quit too early, assuming, oh, it didn't click. And that's why so many people are lonely after 30, right? Social media doesn't help. It makes it worse because it creates this illusion that everybody has like, all these
incredible lives.
Exactly. Incredible lives.
At all
when
times.
In reality, it's a lack of mutual friendships that have created where it's, I don't know. It just comes down to, I think we should just get to this idea of
The solution.
The solution.
The solution.
We've been talking about the problem.
Do you want to
No, you go.
tackle the other part? No, like
the other
pruning?
part, pruning. Yeah. Okay. Yes, I will.
It goes
tackle
hand
that.
in hand.
It does. Look, man, at the end of the day, right? Humans, especially if you're one that is trying to become the best version of yourself, for some cliche lack of better term, right? Like if you continue to just get a little bit better, like, and you're changing as a human, you just change. And sometimes the people that you are around, like, they don't serve the same purpose. You're still friends, but like they don't serve the same purpose. I mean, I have literally maybe 5 to 7 friends, really close friends, right? And I would even say it's really just 3. 3 are really close, right? And so sometimes it gets a little tough because you realize that maybe, man, I'm just trying to be careful here, like where you spend your time and who you spend your time with, it's just not the same. And so you have this precious amount of time, and you're trying to create meaningful relationships with this precious amount of time, but you keep spending the precious amount of time maybe in relationships that aren't the ones that you should be spending the time on.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I actually
I mean, the more you talk about that, I think when we say meaningful, I think there are just different eras of like what is meaningful in that era of my life, right? When I was a kid, like what is meaningful is very different than what I would consider meaningful now. And I have one friend. I don't know if he made up this term or what, but I like it. And he was like, yeah, he was like, oh, I consider this type of friend from maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago, he called it a legacy friend. He was like, I'm not friends with him. It's just, we're not energizing each other in the same way we did 20 years ago. It doesn't mean like I hate them or I don't want to ever talk to them again. It's just that, do I need to spend all of my days, interacting? You actually probably can notice this now that I'm talking about it out loud. If you're talking with a friend and the things you constantly talk about happened many, many years ago, or you're just recalling information, that's probably a sign that it was a different era when you had that meaningful relationship, and you're always recalling it. It still exists. It's still a part of who you are. It's still like made you who you are or whatever. But today, right now, maybe that relationship is more of a legacy friendship where it's sort of something you recall instead of something that like drives you forward today.
Yeah, that's actually a really good legacy friendship. Still meaningful. It's just, it doesn't serve like it used to.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you think about it, you actually think about how we have to drive forward. I don't know what else to say, but going forward in life is the key. If you keep staying in the past, right? I mean, you're just living in the past, and
you're craving the past. Like you're living today, craving the past all the time.
Yeah. And that means nothing new or great could come. And so it's true when you sit down with legacy friends, and if all you do is talk about the past instead of what you're creating or building for your life, it's just a different friendship. I don't know what else to say. I don't know. I think this topic is pretty hard to go. This is a cold, just go at it topic. And I just feel like it's going to take us a few times on this topic to really get it nailed. But, the one thing I think that is interesting is what we find when we do things like Supply Run, because I have found scientifically and anecdotally, right? Like science basically says, time with new people, which is something we lack, or an intense experience, which is something you can do. And I have two instances of that. One, Dan Smith thanks. I don't know if you're still here, Dan, but thanks for that comment. We're still learning this. I didn't even realize it was there. But I did an Ironman. That was an intense experience. The great thing is Dan and I trained separately. We actually trained completely separately. Like I didn't see him. He lives 6 hours away, it's like I rarely see him except for on Zoom. You're not making great friendships on Zoom. You do the best you can. Mm-hmm. But we did this half Ironman together, and I trained and he trained. And we showed up and we ran the last 13 miles together, like just absolute dead. Like we were just like, this sucks. And we just did it together. And it was a super intense experience. And like, I don't know, it was 13 miles. I don't know how long that took us, but my point is it was an intense experience. And like, ever since then, I was like, Dan's a friend of mine. It's a meaningful relationship. Mm-hmm. We were work acquaintances before, and we were friends in that way, and we were good. But after that, I was just like I can text him, I can talk to him. Like it's just different after the intense experience. So that's just one instance.
Yeah. I'll give a brief instance myself, and kind of what you just said, like, a lot of these things we personally experience and have these anecdotal stories. We may have not known it at the time. And then as we've gone through this process, we look back and we're like, is this why? And then we kind of go look at the science. And then it's like, yep, that's why. So like we kind of backdoor our way into these ideas a lot. But it all makes so much sense. And when that happens, then you kind of have like, here's how we would do it if we needed to do it again. Yeah. For me, in a similar way, I mean, this has happened a lot, but like, I remember I had a casual friend because we worked together at these events in New York. This was after college. And, he was doing his thing and I was doing my thing. And he went on this adventurous trip. He came back And then he was invited to go somewhere like halfway around the world by this person. He's like, I don't know them very well, and I kind of want to go with someone I know because this is a weird experience. And I was like, he was like, you're the only person I know that might just do it without like knowing what's going to happen. And I was like, yeah, I'm in. We did that trip 15 years ago. And ever since, it was a incredibly novel and intense, like, I guess, a novel trip where like so much newness happened. We created a bond that only we understand because it's like these events happened. And if we told anybody else, they wouldn't get it. And then we had many more after that. We went on all these trips and did all these things. And so I think the summary here, before we get into like how Supply Run fits into this, we always come back to, if the information is the same, when I say that, like your routine is the same, the pattern is the same every day, it's really hard to change things if nothing changes. So if you're looking for, or you're craving like a meaningful relationship, doing the same things every single day is really hard to make that happen. But if you create a novel experience, then you have a much better chance at making that happen. But that means there's like a little bit of uncertainty because you're like, all right, I'm going to go, maybe it's just like, I'm going to take a class with somebody, or maybe it's, I'm going to go take a trip with somebody. It could be a billion things, but it has to be novel. So anyway, that's sort of where Supply Run came in. And I see JD right now commenting, I'm happy I got 200 plus hours with you fellas. I crave the past, but stay steadfast on the future. So JD and Dave, our cameraman, who want to Supply Run, is like the prime example of everything we just talked about. Do you want to dive into that?
Yeah. No, I think it's good. JD, what's up? That's awesome. So like, I guess I didn't even know we were doing 200 hours together, but I think about this because JD on Supply Run had no idea who the heck Dave was. He was just some random cameraman. JD is obviously, if you don't know him, he's very friendly, like gregarious and like easy to get along with. So like obviously that recipe was good, and Dave is South African, like chill factor was the perfect combo. But they didn't know each other. They didn't know each other at all. And so you don't know the mix. I was the only one who actually knew JD. Jake knew JD in acquaintance way, but I knew JD from a work way. So that it was a little bit more, but I hadn't talked to JD in years. And then Dave never talked to JD, right?
Dave showed up on this trip, never talking to JD.
Yeah. And, by the end of it, because of this intense experience, yes, we were doing time, obviously, because I said time plus intensity.
Yeah.
Right. But this intense experience, and all of a sudden JD and Dave, by the way, I had no idea months, many months after the fact, they were still playing chess online, talking shit to each other. And I'm like, oh my God, they're still hanging out, playing chess and doing all this other stuff. I was like, that is the epitome of creating a meaningful relationship from intensity. Yes, again, there was time involved, but it was the intensity factor, because how can you become so good at that relationship in literally 22 days?
Yeah. Like as a summary, if you've never seen Supply Run, it essentially involved 22 straight, probably like 25 straight days of time together, combined with in a very intense, extreme mission-like environment where you have to solve problems together and you have to go through the shit together, basically. And that is the intensity that happens. So it's time and intensity. If it was just 3 weeks together, that could be like work, right? That's a lot of time, going home at night, I guess. But where's the intensity? So the way I almost know that it's meaningful is because I don't know how it's to say it, but it's like, the Supply Run that we did, JD still says it sometimes. I still jump back into our WhatsApp group chat, even a year or 2 years later. And it's like, oh man, you remember that time we did this? Like, how is this going? And the only people that I can say that to, or JD can say it to, is our 4 people. Because if he goes to anybody else, it won't make any sense. There's like, it's like the whole, like, you had to be there, sort of thing. Yeah. And so in a way, it's like, it's not like creating inside jokes, but it's inside experiences where like that way the bond never fails, because that experience is just for the people who had it. And that is meaningful. at the end of the day.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, look, it's time plus intensity. Now, the question is, not everybody can go on a 22-day trip and do this intense experience. The point is Supply Run proved the point of time plus intensity.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, how do you do that in the everyday life? Well, I'm going to come back to the anecdote of me running this half Ironman with 3 people. It was Dan, it was Dylan and Sean, right? But it was Dan and I. Like, there's 3 of us, but like Dylan went on his own way, crushed it. Sean had his own time, and then Dan and I happened to like line up at the last part, the hardest part. And it was a couple hours of running, right? But that intensity, and because it was hard, it was a hard thing. And that's something anybody can do at any time, a hard thing. Like, it was half Ironman, hard thing. So what is the hard thing? And the risk, right, is if you're trying to find a meaningful relationship, the risk is like, well, do I want to do something hard with this person that I barely know? But an Ironman,
sometimes you don't know.
Yeah, you don't know. And that's the best part. An Ironman isn't like a risk, right? It's just like, I'm going to run it.
And the nice thing about Ironman is you do it for yourself with people, like you can still have an Ironman experience without requiring the other person to like give 50% to you, or whatever
Right.
it is.
Right.
But I think you're right. Like, yes, not everybody can go. Most people can't take a month off from everything to go do this insane Supply Run-esque experience. But I think it comes down to, you need to plan something that's novel. It has to be novel. Like an Ironman you had never done before. Even if you did it before, at least it's like once a year, maybe. I don't know, whatever it is, or less.
Spartan races, any of those things.
Anything. And difficulty makes it novel because there's a challenge component. It doesn't even have to be physical. It could be anything. It's a project you begin on that takes 8 months to complete. Like, I don't know what it is. So it is something novel. You plan something novel, and that novel thing requires a lot of time to complete it. It's a challenge. But I think, if we had a bunch of time to just brainstorm, which is not what we want to do here, I'm sure we can create a massive list of things you can plan that you're just interested in. You grab somebody or other people who are semi-interested in it, and then you make a plan, and then you commit to like, hey, let's do this challenge or this challenging thing. And, we have 6 months to figure it out. And that alone will create an environment where after it is done, like, I can talk to you about Ironman, but I don't know the feeling between you and running next to Dan at the last 13 miles. I'm like, God, that sounds terrible.
It was too, pretty terrible.
Yeah. But I was like, I don't want to run 13 miles, but like, I wasn't there. So I don't have, that is not like, I don't have a connection over this, but you and those people, even if you don't do anything else for the rest of time with these people, you have that moment, and you can always refer back to it and be like, yeah, these people are important to me from that one, that era. So
yeah, I think the last point that I have here, and then we can wrap it up, and whatever point you got, is like, look, one, we have to flesh this out more. I could tell when we were going through it, I was like, we have the gist of what we want to do with this, specifically on how I can just tell there's more to it. I feel like this is a bigger conversation, and we just need more people to participate in the conversation to help find it. But I think the main point here is this: sharing, I don't know if this is the right term, sharing identity building activities. Identity building activities is more important than just a shared interest. Like, oh, I'm interested in this. But an identity building activity, and usually that is a hard activity that builds character, because character is identity building. So really, maybe it's shared character building activity, right? The race with Dan, it pushed me. It pushed me beyond my limits, and he and I did it together, right? Supply Run together. Like, you can go back, and I haven't even thought back, but if I go back and think about some of my most meaningful friendships, it's because of a character building activity, and I think that's kind of what I'll say there. And then, you can, yep.
No, I think
That's it for me. You can say what you need to say and then close it up because
No,
we got
yeah.
a lot more to go. But
Yeah, I this is what we said this before we started. We're like, this one is big. I feel like we can talk about this forever. So it might be another version of this in the future. But no, I think that's a good summary, and I agree with the character building because again, it's almost levels, right? I work with somebody, and that's a lot of time. Okay, somebody I work with, we're gonna go take a course. Okay, that's not very character building, but it's interesting. And then there's character building where it's a real challenge. So I think it's just like, if you want to make meaning, the shortcut to the most meaningful relationship is a very hard to do character building thing that takes time. I think that's like a
that's pretty much it.
yeah.
If you want a meaningful relationship with people, like you have to do a hard character building, intense experience.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be 40 days. It can be literally a day, an Ironman.
Yeah.
I don't know. Wow. This is a good one. I feel like this is definitely conversations for the future because I think when we talk about the purpose of this entire thing called breakthroughs, preventing something crazy happening comes down to like finding meaningful relationships to prevent, frankly, loneliness.
Yes.
You know, because that happens to people.
We don't know how to describe it. We've used a lot of words, but like we call it a mental stressor. Like not having meaningful relationships, not making new meaningful relationships after 30 is one of those stress. Like that's a stress.
That is a stress.
Because it's always in the back of your mind and you're like, I don't really need it. But then like, yeah, if you feel lonely and you're like, I do need it. Like my whole being needs that connection. And so like, if it's hard to do, then this is we're trying to come up with a breakthrough. Like the breakthrough is, okay, character building challenge with somebody that takes a lot of time, and that is the shortcut to getting that. And there's probably other ways, but like, that's our version of that. So, maybe that helps. I think with that being said, like if you're watching this or you're watching it later, we found that a lot of people watch this later, which is really cool. I guess my question would be, if you're over 30 or over 25, whatever, if you're over 25, 30, 35, doesn't matter. Have you made meaningful relationships after that age? And if so, do you remember like why? Like think back to why or how that relationship came to be. Or the opposite question, which is, if you're struggling to make them, do you understand? I don't know if you do you understand why, but like, I don't know.
What do you think is preventing the
there you go.
relationships?
Yeah. So
these are questions we're asking ourselves. And
right. Yeah. So
that's a good question. Yeah. And the last question, hey, look, if you're listening to any of this, like any of the ones we've done,
mm-hmm.
is there anything that we've said that's interesting? Is there something we should talk about? I mean, this is number 3. We're going to just keep going. We have no idea how it's going to resonate. We just believe it will resonate because of our experiences. And I think it's time. And we just want you guys to participate. So let us know. Let us know Jake's question about friendships over 30. And then generally speaking, what do you, is this interesting? And what would you rather hear about?
Yeah.
That's it.
And then in the description, you'll find, if you have, DM us, comment, whatever. And then if you're interested, we just said Supply Run a billion times on the stream. If you've never heard of that before, you're like, what the hell are you talking about? In the description, you can go find what the pilot season of Supply Run. And beyond that, if you're really interested, you can click a different link to apply to go on Supply Run, the next version. So,
yeah. And I'll stop biting my fingernails.
I do the same thing.
Online.
All of the thumbnails. I'm like,
yeah.
Anyway, big gulps, huh?
Well, see you later.